Green Bay Packers versus Detroit Lions. Fantasy football starters are as follows. That Aaron Rodgers guy, he's pretty good. I think you can start him. Aaron Jones, that guy's pretty good. I think you can start him. Devontae Adams, I don't know. Coin flip, of course, you start Devontae Adams. Yeah, not bad. The real question here is, what do you do, after those three? In my mind, of course, Allen Lazard, I think, gets more of the opportunity at the wide receiver position. For me, I don't think I would start him if you have better options, but if you don't, bottom line flex to me would be okay. Then Tonyan, would you start him or not this week? I wouldn't start Tonyan, but I do like Tonyan generally speaking. So, I'm not biased. I'm not anti-Tonyan by any means. Detroit, on the other hand, who do you start? I don't love the analytics or the computer printout for Matt Stafford, but I'd probably roll the dice with him. For a lot of you, you can probably take him off of waivers. Superflex, he's a play. I really hope you have a better option if you're in a one quarterback league. We'll see if Swift is activated. If he is, by the way, David, he is number one on the depth chart now that the coaching change has been made. You don't see Kerryon Johnson ahead of him anymore. But Swift obviously has to be active. If he's not, you can roll the dice on Adrian Peterson, but I think Green Bay is going to be scoring a lot, so I don't think this is an Adrian Peterson type game. To me, if Swift is out, I would say Kerryon Johnson is probably the safer of those guys, but we'll see. Golladay, we'll see if he plays. I don't think he will. Marvin Jones, you can play him. Hawkinson, you can play him. Just a lot of kind of murkiness with Detroit, so if you can find better options, please do. I actually think maybe T.J. Hawkinson is the safest of all of the Lions at this point. What do you think, David?
I didn't like the fact that you said Tonyan, you're not thrilled about him this week, because I don't know how you could sit Tonyan after he's gone for 5 for 44 a touchdown, 5 for 67 a touchdown, and 4 for 39 a touchdown the past 3 weeks. He's got touchdowns in 3 straight weeks. I mean, that's what you're hoping for a tight end. We talk about, I've mentioned it a few times, the 100-yard games from tight ends this year. The average is about one tight end per week. We got it, I think, 14 or 15 through 13 weeks, 100-yard games by tight ends. So you're just hoping on a touchdown. But then I looked at fantasy points against for tight ends, and Detroit has allowed the 10th fewest fantasy points to tight ends. So I'm not sure, what's going to push give or take there, whether Tanyan's going to kind of change that a little bit. But I don't think it's crazy, because if you think about this game, what could it turn into? I think we're expecting a blowout. Detroit's been run all over this year. They're like a bottom 5 unit against the run. So it's going to probably be another Aaron Jones game.
That's what I'm thinking.
Could be a Jamal Williams game if things get out of hand. They like to rest Aaron Jones in those games where they get out of hand, kind of save him for the stretch. So Jamal Williams could be a decent play. But Aaron Rodgers is chugging right now. So it wouldn't surprise me if he just came out and threw another 4 touchdowns. So I'm still starting Tonyan. I don't really care that much that Detroit's only allowed 10th fewest points. I'm still starting him. Same with Lazard. He talk about Tim Patrick. Like, this is wide receiver 2 production from a guy nobody is calling a wide receiver 2, Allen Lazard. And you throw out the one game, his first game back from injury after he missed like 6 games where he only scored 3 points. He's got 18, 17, 28, 12, and 8 fantasy points in his games. He hasn't burned you in a single game. He hasn't gone below 7.5 in any game you were starting him. And then he's got obviously the ceiling with the 28-point game against New Orleans, 18-point game against Minnesota. So Green Bay scoring points. I want all my Green Bay players in the lineup. On the other side, I think the only guy I want in my lineup is probably DeAndre Swift and TJ Hawkinson as well. But again, Marvin Jones has been playing all right. And the coaching change. We talk about the coaching changes a few times this year. All these teams are playing better, like immediately after they fire their head coach. Earth to you Chargers. Take the hint. But, hey, Matt Patricia's gone. Matt Stafford looked free. He looked like he was having fun and they came back and beat beat Chicago. Excuse me. And you know what I saw happened at post-game? You know what Matt Stafford did? He gave the game ball to interim coach Darrell Bevell. Maybe they are playing. Maybe this could be a shootout. So I'm not sitting Robert Tonyan because Detroit's only allowed 10th fewest points to tight ends. I'm starting basically all my Packers across the board.
The line, Bovada has Green Bay minus 8.5 versus Detroit. Who do you take?
I want to take Green Bay, but I wouldn't touch this game just because we talk about Detroit. They got nothing to play for but fun and respect, and they got the interim coach. They feel free. Division game at Detroit. I'm not touching it, but if I had to, I will take Green Bay, I think.
The Green Bay Packers and the Pittsburgh Steelers are kind of similar when you're looking at it against the spread. They just don't play well on the road against teams they should dominate. And when I say play well, they win a lot of these games. Don't get me wrong, but when you're talking about a spread that's more than a touchdown, you mentioned, respect. I feel like the Detroit Lions, and remember when Bevel was the offensive coordinator of Seattle before Russell Wilson threw that interception on the goal line, everybody was talking about him as the next new head coach. Once Russell Wilson threw that interception on the goal line, cost them the Super Bowl when they should have just run the ball with Lynch. He got Jedi tricked by Bill Belichick, but we saw him do it to McVay too, by the way. So it's not it happens. But once
they tricked themselves.
Yeah, I know. But anyway, when that happened, like his coaching stock just like fell through. Like he's a quality head coach and has been for years. I think the Detroit Lions want him, the players want him to be the head coach. I think they're going to play their butts off. I don't know that Detroit is going to win the game, but if you're giving me 8.5 points, I'm going to take Detroit.
You convince me. Switch me over. Because I felt like I was making a case too. But I've been hurt picking bad teams this year, and I think that's kind of where I'm like.
Well, it's weird. It's weird to pick. It's weird to pick games like the home field. I mean, it's really.
It's a lot of factors.
There's a lot of factors this year. I haven't been as good. I haven't even, once my computer crashed, I stopped keeping track of where I mean, you and me were doing all right. We were at like 56, 57%. But I don't know where we were in the second quarter of the season, basically, or the third quarter. So we, for all I know, I could be under 50%, which would be an all-time worst by a wide margin. I'm never under 58.
I'm surprised I was even that high up.
No, yeah.
Just full disclosure, guys. I'm the fantasy guy. Like you should listen to Sean about the betting stuff.
It's bizarre, and I'll tell you,
fantasy's my specialty.
I don't think I mentioned this. I think I mentioned this on my gambling podcast, the Get Paid podcast last week. Is I talked to a guy from a sports book, and I'm like, well, how are you handling setting the lines this year with the home field advantage? And he said, we have no idea. I mean, basically, he's like, we have no idea. He said it's going to take us a full season to figure out what to do because, if you're not if you don't pay, I know, you're not the expert gambler or anything, but if you don't pay attention to the lines, usually what happens is the lines come out like whenever, like they're already out now on Monday morning, but they've been out for a while. If you're in Vegas, you can go to the sports books and bet week 17 if you want to. There are lines out there. But when a sports book sets a line, generally a lot of the action starts to come that week. So like Monday morning, a lot of the casual bettors will start betting. And then what'll happen is if the guys who are professional bettors, they're betting $50,000 a game, the guys that really make a ton of money doing it, they'll bet a couple lines if they like them on Monday, and then they hope that the line switches back so they can get in a Goldilocks zone by Saturday. But where the heavy money comes in is Saturday and Sunday. That's when the heavy bettors will pounce on the lines. So when you see a line move from let's say Green Bay -8.5 to Detroit +1 or something like that, and a line moves 7 points, that lets you know the sports books didn't know what they were doing. Because when you see a variance like that, usually you see a line shift maybe 1 point, 1.5 points during a week, but we're seeing constantly 5 point, 7 point. I've seen 8 point shifts. I've seen a team start as a 5-point favorite and be a 5-point dog this year. It never happens. So too much volatility for me. Let's move it on.